Knowles on the News. Susan Knowles.
So here we sit another day waiting for WikiLeaks to make another email drop, if you will. I don't know about you, but I do sit and wait. I wonder what they have up their sleeves. And I'm also thinking, they better hurry up because although we have a lot of information, it seems like the media is downplaying everything that they can, of course. We knew they would. But we need to have something that is so huge, so blaring in your face that it just cannot and will not be ignored. So I'm hoping they get that out to us very soon. We don't have much time before Tuesday's election. I mean, it's hard to believe that anybody right now is voting for Hillary, but they are. I mean, I saw a rally with her yesterday and her people behind her, and I don't know if that was all of everybody that was there, but anyway, they were sitting there cheering for her, and I can't believe that anybody would actually show up to have their faces shown on TV to be at her rally. I mean, I just don't get it. But good news is if you were an early voter and you've somehow had a change of heart and wish that you had not voted for Hillary, in some states you will be able to change that vote and vote for whomever else that you want to, but not Hillary. Again, it's hard to believe that people are still voting for her, but they are. That's the reality of it, and we need to do everything we can to get information out. And speaking of getting information out, I've had a number of people who say that they cannot vote for Donald Trump, and they don't want to vote for Hillary, so they want to vote for third party. Now, I'm a big proponent of vote for whomever that you want to, whatever your conscience tells you that you should do, that's what you should do. For those people who are voting for a third party just because you want to make a point, I don't think now is the time to make that point. I think when it's not an election year, that's when you should make a point of saying we want to get a third party. Let's stop with this two-party system. It's not working. That's the time to do it. It's the time to have 4 years to build up that third party. By doing it now, I think it's a detriment, and it's certainly not going to give you what you want, although I think you'll say, well, all we wanted was to have our third party out and to show that they could do some benefit. I get that, but it could potentially give the election to Hillary, and I'm not one of those people who say, oh, if you don't vote for, if you're not voting for Trump, you're voting for Hillary. I'm not one of those people, but I'm just saying, if that's the point you're trying to make, I think that you may do some damage in the process, and perhaps you're okay with that. But, from the very beginning, for me, I did some research on Evan McMullin, and I'm not as sold as everybody else is. I'm really not. I mean, I think he has some great qualities and probably a really nice person. But there are some red flags for me that I don't like. The biggest one, and I've said this before, is the fact that his connection to the United Nations. Now, I know it was a volunteer position, it looks like, but for me, it's a connection to the United Nations, and that sends up a red flag for me. Whether that's a deal breaker is another thing. But right now, I look at that and I'm like, I don't necessarily know that I like that. Let me tell you some more information about him. He spent more than a decade as an undercover CIA agent in hostile environments, and that's according to his LinkedIn page. And that had a focus with counterterrorism in the Middle East. He earned a graduate degree from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania, where Trump was an undergraduate. And he briefly spent time in the private sector as an investment banker. Now, and listen specifically where he was an investment banker. For some, this is an issue. It was at the Mergers and Acquisitions Department for Goldman Sachs. And it seems like for everyone, this seems to be an issue. Goldman Sachs has been brought up so many times as the evil Goldman Sachs. And so you have to look at that and say, well, okay, that's where Evan McMullin was too. If you're going to complain or talk about Ted Cruz as wife as being there or other people, let's say in the Trump group in the Trump campaign, then you have to acknowledge that McMullin was there as well. Now, here's another part that I didn't like. He has close ties to House GOP leadership, spending the last 2 years acting as an advisor to the Committee on Foreign Affairs and as policy director to the Republican Conference. Again, red flag for me if you're talking about connections to rhinos. I'm not saying that's a deal breaker, but I'm saying that's something that kind of needs to be acknowledged and looked into. He also, another thing that kind of, caught my attention in this is that it is basically his feelings in regards to refugees. It says here that, and I'm reading from The Hill. This is an article done by The Hill. He speaks beginner's Arabic, spent more than a decade in the CIA's elite national clandestine service, which took him to Syria, Jordan, and Iraq, among other places. And his LinkedIn biography says he managed clandestine operations related to counterterrorism, counterinsurgency, energy, political stability, and counterintelligence while serving mostly in hostile environments. Is a member, and this concerns me more, I guess. He's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, a nonpartisan think tank, and earlier this year gave a TEDx talk at the London School of Business about genocide with a focus on Syrian President Bashar Assad's atrocities. He launched his career as a United Nations volunteer in Jordan, where he helped displaced refugees, which seems to be one of his primary interests. Okay, so that right there really for me is more concerning, because what does that mean? Yes, he was a volunteer and he did some things in Jordan, and people looking at that say, well, that's great because it's Jordan, it's a lot of atrocities and all that. Okay, and I don't deny that, but what happens when he becomes president? What are we talking about in terms of bringing Syrian refugees to the United States? I haven't heard him say that he's against that, and I know he has an affinity for it now. Reading this article, at least, it says that, and that really that puts me with concern. It also says on social media, it says that he is a fierce advocate for Middle Eastern refugees. And as I said, that's really the most concerning to me, is what would be his policy in the United States if he became president. And he quotes here, there's a quote from him. Well, first let me say it puts him at odds with Trump, who's called on a quote-unquote ban on Muslims entering the country, which, in my opinion, what Trump said, and I still believe it, is that he was saying, let's have a ban on anybody really coming into this country until they can be properly vetted. That to me was the point that he was making, and it got blown out of proportion, of course. But here's the quote that McMullin wrote on his Facebook. As Donald Trump continues attacking Muslims, and as a former CIA officer, I'd like all Americans to know the truth. American and other Muslims have played a central role in virtually every counterterrorism win we've had since 9/11. They are an indispensable asset in this fight. Attacking them as a group makes America weaker, not stronger. Again, his policy for me is not clear on what he would do in regards to Syrian refugees coming into the United States, especially if he believes that this is where his heart is, that he has a heart for refugees in the Middle East. And I think that's great. I really do. And I think if he can find places for Syrian refugees to go in the Middle East or in other places that other countries that want to take them, I think that's great. The United States, we don't have a proper vetting process here. State Department has said that. I would not want to see them come here, and I wouldn't feel comfortable not knowing his policy on that. And another thing I found interesting about him is that it says here he spent the last 2 years acting as an advisor to Republicans on Capitol Hill, first as an advisor to the House Committee on Foreign Affairs, and more recently as chief policy director to the House Republican Conference. His tenure on Capitol Hill appeared to come to an end recently, with one source telling the Hill that House Republicans had no knowledge of his presidential ambitions and that he is no longer employed by the conference. And with on his Facebook page, there are pictures of him with Paul Ryan and John Boehner. And, he's been described by the one House source as being incredibly smart and frustrated by congressional gridlock. And I guess the sources say they long believed that he had political ambitions, which, that's fine. I guess, again, for me, the two biggest things that concern me is the fact that he was a volunteer for the UN. And in regards to the Middle East, I mean, anybody that even talks to the UN, in my book, I have some red flags. I don't care if you're running for dog catcher. I'm going to look at you differently because that you worked with the UN. Now, was that the only way that he could help refugees in Jordan, and that's why he did it? I don't know. Would that be enough? Should that be enough, and should that be okay? I don't know. You make that call. The other thing that concerns me again is his policy on the Middle East. What would that be in regards to Syrian refugees coming into the United States? So I don't necessarily think that he's a bad person. I don't necessarily think that these things that I've talked about are deal breakers, but they give concern to me, and I would certainly want to look at it. As far as the other third-party candidates, Johnson, I don't know why you would vote for him after some of the things that he's talked about and appears to be oblivious as to, let's say, what even Aleppo is, which sounds like our own government, but I think our own government knows what Aleppo is and knows exactly what's going on in the Middle East and doesn't want you to know what's going on in the Middle East, so they play dumb. But I think Johnson just seems to be dumb in some of the things that I've heard him say. So, regardless, again, my opinion is, as far as a third party is concerned, that I would certainly be open to looking at third party, but outside of an election cycle. And if it's something where you could get it started like the Tea Party did, great, go for it. But I don't think now is the time to be trying to make that stand, which could potentially harm other factors that are more important than trying to just assert the fact that you want a third party. I mean, I do think it's time that we should look and see what our other options are. And it's something that whether Trump gets in or Hillary gets in, I think that we ought to look at and start finding a better way to run our country so that we don't get into the position that we're in right now. And if Hillary gets in, God forbid, what the next 4 years and possibly 8 are going to look like. And let's say that she gets in and gets indicted. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what it would be like to have a Tim Kaine presidency. It would probably be worse than Biden, I'm assuming, but I don't know. I mean, the thing that we need to do is continue to get the word out about Hillary so that she doesn't possibly get elected. And looking at all of the stats right now, I mean, I don't believe the polls. I even the ones that say that they are the ones that we all know, that we've known for years. I don't trust what's coming out of them. I don't necessarily know if it's because they're giving out false information. I'm not saying that so much as I'm not sure that the people that they're polling are actually giving them correct information. I think a lot of people don't want to tell people exactly who they're voting for or what they're thinking. And I think the polls are sort of showing that in some ways. And then we have other polls like ABC polls that I wouldn't believe if they were polling a kindergarten, So I think you have to kind of look around and see what you think is actually going on in your own neighborhood, in your own city, in your own state. I think that's probably, a better indication of what's actually happening. In California, I mean, I would be absolutely shocked if Trump got California. That would take a miracle. That would take a major upheaval, and I don't foresee that happening in California or places like New York. But some of the other states, I mean, I think right now that there are pretty smart people in states that are starting to say, whoa, wait a minute, I think we've been handed a bill of goods here, and I think we need to look at this and what are the possibilities if this woman gets in and she is indicted. Now, and then there are those, I don't care what you say and what you do, people will never change their minds about her. I don't think they care if she committed murder. I'm not sure that would really matter. And I guess when I say that, I mean if they could prove she committed murder, I don't think it would matter. And I saw a meme that somebody sent me, and although it was meant to be a joke, it almost gets very close to the truth. And this is about Hillary. It says, even if it turns out Hillary was trading a certain type of sex, I won't say it on air, and state secrets for crack cocaine in the back seat of a stolen Subaru in a 7-Eleven parking lot in the Middle East that doubles as an illegal abortion clinic, I would still vote for her over Cheeto Hitler, meaning Donald Trump. While I would like to just laugh that off as, oh, that's so funny, haha, it's not, because I think that's actually true for most Hillary voters, Hillary supporters and voters. It wouldn't matter. They hate Donald Trump so much just because he has an R next to his name, most likely. I mean, if you want to say, well, look at Donald Trump, we don't like him because the allegations against women. Well, you're voting for a woman whose husband has allegations against him. Okay, I know that's not her, that's him. But allegations that she's gone along with everything and that she treats women like crap, if that doesn't matter to you, then what does? They just hate Donald Trump because he has an R next to his name, and they'd rather vote for somebody who is being investigated by everybody and his brother, except the DOJ, of course, because they're in on everything. But it's amazing what people will do, what they will gladly turn a blind eye to. And I guess they think that, well, it's not gonna really matter. I don't have a say anyway. I wish I could kind of in some ways get into their minds and figure out how they got to the point that they got to. Maybe it'd be too scary of a place to go, but it is just amazing that people can go out and vote for somebody that all of these people are coming forward and saying things, and these aren't allegations that other people are saying. With Trump, for example, when people are coming forward, when the women are coming forward, they've had other people who have come forward immediately and said, no, that's not true, that's not what happened, or here's the reason why. Now that didn't really happen with Clinton, and it's not meaning Bill. It's not happening with her. You don't have people. You don't have Uma coming forward and saying, oh, you know what? I really didn't set up that folder that said life insurance on it and that has all of those emails from Hillary's computer and email conversations with me. No, I didn't do that. No, you don't have that. You don't have people who are willing to step forward and saying that didn't happen because probably 99% assured that it did happen. And, now, for example, Donna Brazile, she's gone. She lied twice. Everybody defended her on CNN. Oh no, Donna, she's my girl. Oh, we're homies. That one woman, I can't remember her name, basically berating this other CNN talker for saying that about Donna Brazile, saying that she wasn't trustworthy, and the woman just about bit her head off and like, oh no, I know Donna Brazile. She and I, we go way back. We're friends, and she's wonderful. Well, she's not so wonderful. And neither was Debbie Wasserman Schultz, So these people can be fired. They can have evidence from emails come out against them, and still people will say on the Hillary supporter side, oh, it's okay. It's all right. Well, oh, they got fired. Well, I'm sure it'll be fine. It's like they don't want to look at any evidence at all, and which is just, it's absolutely amazing. It's not a surprise, but it is absolutely amazing. And I don't know about you, but the one thing that I've said all along, because I think I told you I had a guest on my show recently, Jerome Corsi. He wrote Partners in Crime, and it's all about the Clinton Foundation, and it lays everything out. If the FBI really wanted to get information about the Clinton Foundation, all they'd have to do is go read Partners in Crime, and they'll have all the information they need right there. All the connections, who these people are, what they've done, why these people are, possibly, allegedly, have done wrongdoing within the Clinton Foundation and with the Secretary of State at the time. So, I mean, go pick up a copy. But for me, these emails are great. But the real issues, I feel, the real corruption, if you really want to find, and I'm not just talking the Clintons, I think you could go out and you could look and make accusations against a number of individuals that may go down with the Clintons should that ever occur. And, I mean, if you go there and you look, I mean, it's absolutely amazing what you're going to find in the connections. But some emails have come out even about that, basically saying this conversation with when Chelsea came into the Clinton Foundation. There was some speculation that Chelsea was starting to find out things were going on that she wasn't okay with. And she was wondering, what are my parents doing? And she started questioning some things. And so there was a conversation between Podesta, I believe, and Doug Band, who was really heavily into the Clinton Foundation. It was kind of like their lead person, if you will, on the Clinton Foundation, and saying, if this comes out, we're screwed. And so, meaning, if people find out what Chelsea knows, or that Chelsea has concerns, we're going to be screwed. But of course, nobody's done anything about that. Nobody's even looked at that. Nobody in the news has really looked at that. But that needs to be looked into. And then there's back and forth with him saying, John, this is talking to Podesta, I would appreciate your feedback and any suggestions. I'm also starting to worry that if this story gets out, we are screwed. And basically going on to saying, we've built this business. There's 65 people work for us who have wives and husbands and kids. They all depend on us. Our business has almost nothing to do with the Clintons or the Clinton Foundation, et cetera. So, you can tell that they're scared. There's something there that needs to be looked at, and we're really not doing anything about going further into it, or seemingly so. At least we're not being told anything about that in the news or from the administration. But I guess, apparently, according to another article, it said the extent to which Hillary Clinton's key advisors are now the focus of major FBI investigations is becoming clear. And this, I think, was reported at one point by the Daily Mail. I mean, we're not going to get that here, or even that there is anything going on. But they're looking at, like, the Clintons' long-term inner circle, in which they really need to. Because, again, there's so many people potentially involved in what's going on that they're going to have to do a probe. I mean, you're talking about the Virginia Governor McAuliffe. What happened there with the money that was given to the number two person, Andrew McCabe's wife, on an election that she was like number 3 in and had no chance of winning. What's going on there? You're talking about the connection with UMA, and there are potentially, again, other people that their names are coming up, that really need to be looked at. And determine, how about the Chinese government? What went on there? God, there's so much there. This could be years of looking at everything, and all these people that they gave immunity to. I mean, now it's got to be questioned again about people like Cheryl Mills that they gave immunity to. Did they do that because that was the correct thing to do? Or did they do that because they gave everybody immunity? There was nobody to go after, that type of thing. I think that's when they get a special prosecutor in, if Donald Trump should be elected, I think those type of things are going to have to be looked at. I think the FBI, James Comey, I don't know how far he is into it. What is he potentially trying to cover up? I don't know. Does he have some guilt? I don't know. It sure looks bad. It really does. And that may be why he came out now that he did and said we're going to look at the 650,000 plus emails now, because he couldn't wait any longer. He couldn't cover up for them any longer if that's indeed what he did. And then the DOJ taking the fifth because she doesn't want to talk about the Iran nuclear deal and anything else that's going on. And why is that? Well, you can take the fifth. Anybody can do that. It doesn't mean you're guilty, but it also means that you've got something that you need to protect yourself against potentially, okay? And, with everything that's happening in the Middle East right now, my gosh, who knows what we are going to find. Again, the special prosecutor will potentially find a lot of things. However, one of the problems is that, if you're doing something for the president, you're doing something for the United States, they can always say, well, we can't tell you this information because it'll put the country in danger, or, something of that nature, executive privilege. We're not going to tell you. All of these people so corrupt. And that's why, if there is corruption, and there certainly does look like there is, we're going to have to do something in this country that's going to be able to prevent this from happening in the future. If they got away with it once, how many more people are going to try that again and again and again? And if Hillary gets in, oh my gosh, if you think corruption, she said she didn't know it was classified because it didn't have a C on it. Okay, well, C now is going to stand for corruption if she gets in. And she'll understand that because she understands corruption very, very well. And there'll just be more corruption. And how many times is the American public going to allow her to say, oh, I really messed up. I really shouldn't have had that personal server, and I'm so sorry. Can you forgive me? Let's get back on abortions. The more important stuff. Let's go. And I want to know, how many more times is Obama going to stand out in front of a crowd like he did yesterday? Oh my gosh. At a rally for Hillary. And you can always tell exactly what these people think of the American public. And the American public, shamefully, the supporters anyway, for Hillary, they fall for it every time. And Obama gets up there, and I watched a few minutes because I was putting down some comments, and they weren't pro-Hillary, I can promise you that. But the first thing he does when he starts his, these poor people, they're just stupid, I'm so intelligent. I've got to speak to them in terms that they can understand. The first thing he does is he drops the ing off the words with ing. For example, working becomes working. Preaching becomes preaching. And words like I'm going to be reaching out. I'm reaching out to you. And he gets that Southern Baptist a preacher tone to him, because these poor dumb Christians will understand that. I'm saying that's what he's thinking, not me. But you can just tell it's something that he's done, and these people just suck it up. I mean, you watch them and they're sitting there like, oh my gosh, he's such a smart man, and I'm so dumb, and I'm so glad I have him to tell me what it is that I need to know. I'm working with him, and we're gonna do this. Oh gosh. And he does this, and he can do it with a straight face, because you know why? They've done this with a straight face before. When he said, I didn't know about her personal email server, when he knew darn well he does know, when it's been shown in emails that they covered that up, he had a fake name. I mean, what about this administration is real? Tell me that, because I don't know anymore. What about Hillary is real? The only thing I know about her that's real is the evil and the corruption that I see. That's it. I don't know about anything else with her. But these people live lives that are just so out there that reality is what they create in their own minds. Just recently she came out and said that she was in New York on 9/11, and she was in Washington, D.C. Now, I know they're close, but I mean, and nobody in the press is saying, has Hillary lost her mind? Was she just, what's the case? Was she drinking? I mean, there's so many allegations that she's drinking all the time. What I know this is petty, but one of the things that I can't believe is that the fact that a number of people are saying she stinks. I mean, literally, she stinks, that she doesn't take showers. I mean, you don't take showers. You could have people shower you. You know, you have so much money. If you wanted someone to come in and bathe you, you can. And you don't take baths or showers, and you stink that much that you reek around people. What in the world is that all about? Maybe that's why the fly, was around her at the debate, when it landed on her face. Maybe, the fly was coming home. I don't know. But my gosh, you hear things like that. And I think, there are people, again, Hillary supporters, that look up to people like that and think they're just, oh, wow, I would love their lives. They're so powerful. They're so knowledgeable. I'd like to bow down at their feet. And then you find out the realities of these people. And it's horrendous. And it would be great if somehow you could convince the Hillary supporters of the truth, of the actual facts, but they don't want to hear them. And I think a lot of it is it's been so long since they've been required, or let's put it this way. It's been so long since they've actually heard the truth that now they just believe anything that comes out of the mouths of Hillary, because they don't know what the truth is. They haven't heard the truth in years. So, why start now questioning anything? And we're teaching, we teach kids to do that today in schools, progressive thinking, which is don't think, just accept what it is I'm telling you. We've got to stop that too. We really do. And I know I harp on that just about every show with your kids. You're going to have to spend time teaching your children the truth and critical thinking. They're not getting it in school for the most part, except if they're homeschooled. But if you don't have time or the desire or whatever to send them to homeschool, that's fine. But then take the time to sit down and teach them about the truth and how to think for themselves and how not to sit there and accept everything that they're told as the truth. Do their own homework. If they can find it on the internet, if it hasn't been taken off now, or it changed because somebody doesn't want you to know the truth, hopefully they'll be able to find it. But we got to start doing things so differently in this country, and I think this election has absolutely proven that for us. And speaking about corruption, I think the one thing that we need to continue to watch out for is the corruption. I mean, as we all know, after the FBI announced that Friday they were going to reopen the investigation into Hillary Clinton, what happens? The Department of Justice now, all of a sudden, they didn't want them to proceed. But then when they determined that, okay, well, it's going to go forward because it's going to make us look bad, and we have to pretend that we're still cooperating with the government. They send a letter saying we're going to continue to work closely with the FBI and take appropriate steps as expeditiously as possible. Yeah, right. And it was signed by Peter Kadzik, Assistant Attorney General and head of the Office of Legislative Affairs. And he's had that office since 2013. And he helped head up the effort to nominate Loretta Lynch as Attorney General, according to what I've read. And John Podesta and Peter, John Podesta being the Clinton campaign chair, they were classmates at Georgetown Law School in the 1970s and have remained connected both professionally and socially. And they've even exchanged emails. And that came out from WikiLeaks. And Zero Hedge reported that the day after Hillary Clinton testified on Benghazi last October, John Podesta met with Peter Kadzik and a few other well-connected friends for dinner at a restaurant in Washington, D.C. So even if there's no actual corruption there, nothing wrong with their connection, you're left to believe that there's a conflict of interest. And if you were talking about a judge and this were happening, you would want to recuse that judge because it just has the look of something being wrong, something sneaking happening, something illegal happening, something just legally wrong happening. So you would want to replace that judge. It would be no questions asked. And that's what should happen right now. But no, we're going to keep this guy on. We're going to act like with the DOJ, we're right in there. We're helping you because this is important. We want to get her too. If there's stuff to get, we really want to get her. Wink, wink. And I don't know why our Congress, whoever has the ability, isn't coming forward and saying, no, get this guy off of this case. And what is he doing with the information he's getting? I mean, I hope the FBI kept a copy, because are they going to change things? Are they going to lose things? What's the case going to be? Again, because it looks so wrong, we don't know. And they may be doing nothing wrong, but we won't feel comfortable with that now, will we? And maybe that's something that we should do. I don't know. Maybe it's something that the ACLJ should come out against. I'm just not sure. I mean, there's so much potential corruption going on. It's hard to keep up with everything. I mean, you need a playbook to keep up with everything. And who said what? You know, if you haven't listened to my most recent show on Stand for Truth Radio, go back and listen to that. I had Ted Harvey from the Stop Hillary PAC on, and we discussed the emails, the 650,000 plus emails from Uma that went to her personal computer. And I think he and I have a little bit different idea about it. In a lot of respects, I look at it as, from the very beginning, this woman was either just totally stupid or totally bright. There's no in between. And having been with the Clintons since she was 19, I think that's like 21 years or something like that, she understands the game. She knows what happens. She knows how people sometimes get so stressed in the working with the Clintons that, gosh, they just, unexpectedly commit suicide, different various ways, shooting themselves in the back of the head, dragging themselves 50 feet and then dying or something like that. I'm being sarcastic there, but you get what I'm saying. Or people who drop barbells on their throats, or they're just so happy they shoot themselves, things like that. Or they're robbed mysteriously out in the street of DC or somewhere, but nothing's taken. That type of thing. She knows the ins and outs. She knows that if anything ever went awry, let's say, that she better have some information to protect herself. And that's my feeling. That's why she had the emails. Now, he had a little different take on it, and he really didn't say exactly what he thought was happening, other than he implied that people may be, interested in seeing that information. My thoughts were, who are you talking about? Muslim Brotherhood? Are you talking about other people investing, quote unquote, in the Clinton Foundation? Who are we talking about? So I don't know. I don't know what you think about that. I feel it's like some of those people that are working for an employer that they think is crooked. They're not sure, or maybe they are, and they want to protect themselves, and they want to have the goods on their employer. So they send every email home to their own personal computer. And I feel that's maybe what she was doing, that she had it automatically to forward to her, her personal information, to her personal emails every time she was sent something, every time they had a communication. So that she could always say, oh, okay, well, here, I have the goods on her. Here's all the information. Don't come after me. And, I do think that occasionally that she does slip up because, or maybe she just, for example, when she said, oh, yeah, I've turned everything over to you, and obviously she didn't, she could say, well, I forgot about that, or I had given you that same information was on this computer. I don't know. She'll come up with something, I'm sure, or something to try to work a deal so that she gets immunity. which she's already had immunity, but I don't know if it was a limited type of immunity, and now she's got information they really want, and they can go after Hillary. Who's to know? I mean, we've seen Hillary for how many years now come out smelling like almost smelling like a rose each and every time that something happens. Teflon Hillary. Nothing ever seems to stick. And she goes out and so happy with herself. I mean, right after the announcement, you could tell in a rally that she was at, her speech patterns were different. You could tell she was angry, ticked off about the whole thing. But she still went out there and fought through it. And you could tell, at least what I was seeing, you could tell she was fighting through it, and she was fighting mad all at the same time. Because she knows that when she's standing there at a rally, that she's got people back in the office that are working overtime to make sure that she comes out smelling almost like a rose. And she's angry because she's getting caught. It's that same look I remember seeing on Bill Clinton's face when it dawned on him, this most powerful man in the world at the time, that this little intern was about to take him down, right? It was that look of, oh, how did this happen, that this piece of garbage in his mind took me down? How did I let this happen? But more importantly, how did this little piece of garbage help take me down? And you can tell. Again, it's that way that they look at people that they think are less than. They don't mind using them, but that's how they treat them, and that's how they look at them. It's the same thing, we hear about rumors, supposedly, of how Hillary talked to Donna Brazile, treating her like garbage, basically. Treating the Secret Service like garbage. Talking down to them, calling people different names. And supposedly, I saw an article yesterday coming out saying that she has used the N-word at times. Now, it's funny because anybody else could use the N-word in a deposition 20-some years ago, and they're taken off of Food Network. But Hillary Clinton, no big deal. No problem. And double standards, different standards for those people in the elite group than for everyone else. And I think that's one of the things that really clearly for me that this election has done. Not that my eyes weren't open before, but they're really opened now. You and I are not in that elite group. But those people who are in that group, they don't mind using whomever they have to use to get what they want. And sit there and laugh behind your back. Laugh at the American public. And almost openly laugh at the American public now. Almost. It's like they don't even care anymore. They think they can get away with anything and everything. And I think that's what Hillary has thought up until now. And she's still working hard to make that continue to be a reality, but has some doubts. And then whenever they get to the point where they feel like they're almost getting taken down by someone that they shouldn't be, the little people, then they get angry. And that's what's happening with her. I mean, can you imagine? Her dynasty there is on shaky ground right now. And she can somehow go out and continue as if nothing happens. And she does that because she's had practice. She's had 30 years of looking at parents of dead children, adult children, who have died in Benghazi, standing there over their caskets and looking at these parents, and has no care in the world. Doesn't even have any type of empathy for their pain. I don't know, maybe she doesn't understand what empathy is, never has felt it. I have no idea. But how you lie to those people like that, I don't know. That's colder than cold. And yet she's done it, and so is Obama. Somehow in this nation, we all need to continue to work together to not allow these elites to lord over us. We have to figure out a way to not allow these people to get in the positions of power that they have. One of the things that always saddens me is how somebody running for president or some office, you have to have so much money and you have to have so much, financial support coming from whatever party that you're in. It shouldn't be like that. It really should not be like that. Our whole system in that regard, in my mind, I don't see the founding fathers ever thinking that's the way it should be. Like the richest guy or the richest woman wins. No. We need normal, regular people. If there are any left, those are the people that we need to be running for office, whatever it is. Dog catcher all the way up to president. That's what we need. And we need to flush out all of these people, these career politicians like John McCain and all the other rhinos that sit there year after year after year and get rich. Because they're not only just making the money that they make for holding that office, they're making so much money on top of that. It's ridiculous. And they get insider trading that you and I will never have. That should not be that way. There should not be two different systems or two classes of people in this country. It should not be that way. Money should not be the deciding factor. And how do we change that? It's going to take a long time, but we have to start somewhere. Again, look at the progressives. Look at how they do it and how successful they have been. They just put one foot in front of the other. They have a starting point. They look down the road to see the finishing point, and they just keep moving towards it. That's how it's done. And we need to do that. We seem to just get sidetracked or say, yeah, it's not worth it. I'm just gotta stop it right here. We can't do that. Our country is too important. I don't know if we're going to be able to save this country. I pray to God that we will. But even it's saving the country with what's going on in the Middle East. Is that going to really, are we going to be saved in this country? Listening to other people that are over in Israel and have the pulse of what's going on, they're saying it's a bloodbath over in Mosul. And that we basically did this because of the election, to have a distraction. But innocent people are getting slaughtered. You hear that on the news? No, you're not going to. And even, it's so bad that even Saudi Arabia, who hates the Jews, hates them, hates Israel, are now starting to say, you know what? Maybe Israel's not so bad after all. Because they need Israel's help. And this Saudi Arabia is supposed to be our ally. And we're not helping them. I don't know who we are helping other than Iran and ISIS. I don't know who we're helping. Because it doesn't sound like we're doing what we're supposed to do anymore. And again, it's not because this administration is so stupid. I'm sorry. Quit giving them a pass. It's because it's calculated. And everything is coming to fruition. And there are people in the Middle East who are saying, I don't even know if the United States is going to have an election. And they're actually, you know what? They're actually praying for us in Israel. They're praying for us that we won't go out and vote for Hillary. And praying for the United States that we can somehow get it together. And now, of course, that's not all of Israel, but those in Israel who watch what's happening in America and know that it's not the Americans that are doing this, that it's those in control right now of America that are doing this. It's a mess. And it's going to take a long time to turn things around, if ever. And there better be a plan. If Hillary gets in, we all need a plan, because the conservative voice will be shut down. She'll systematically go through and find ways, just like Obama, to shut us down. But it's guaranteed to be worse under her, because she's got more to lose. Obama could stand behind the fact that he's the first African American president. That's how he was protected. She just being the female, nobody's gonna care that much. Although she's gonna start wanting to bring out that sexist card any minute now, because she's got so much to lose. It's just amazing to watch these people in action and to know how far we have gone down that road off the tracks. And while it's a wake-up call for this election, it's more than that. It's bigger than that. And it's something that you and I are going to have to become personally involved in to help try to rectify what we can salvage. I mean, you've got Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and everything else in this country with the UN's hand in this country that somehow we're going to have to remove. And you've got people in this country that have bought into the lies for so long that it's going to be just an uphill battle trying to get them to look at anything other than their liberal agenda. Long enough to see that what's happening in this country is impacting all of us, and we're not making this up. I mean, I don't know how you do that. I think in some ways you do it like they did with the police officers. Those people who were saying, all police are pigs and that type of thing. They say, hey, come on a ride along with us and see what it's like. Or also here, like do this training thing here, and you figure out whether shoot or not to shoot. And then people go through it and they're like, holy cow. It looks so easy. When you hit the rewind button and you play it over and over, it looks so easy that you should have done this and you should have done that. Monday morning quarterbacking. But when you're sitting there in that situation, it's not so easy. Now, is it? And then the reality strikes, and it's like, okay, now I look at police officers different. Now I have a different respect than I did before. But until somebody is actually faced with that situation themselves, I don't think anymore some of these people are going to ever learn. They're too far gone. They really are. I mean, there are still a lot of people. They don't listen to politics at all. They don't even know who the president is. They barely know who Hillary Clinton is. And they're fooled. I mean, you could say, oh, Hillary Clinton said this, and it's Donald Trump, and they believe it. And yet they hate Donald Trump. I mean, people are too easily fooled because they have set back, and they don't have to do anything. They've had the government do their thinking for them, and so that they don't know how to think for themselves. They've had the government say, I'll take care of you, and they sat there with their hands open and gotten a check, and the government has, quote-unquote, taken care of them. And so now they don't know what to do because they've never had to. It's the saddest thing. I had some guy the other night on Halloween. I went across the street and I talked to my neighbors, kind of a military young couple. Turns out the man told me that, shared with me that his family, he's from a family of immigrants that came to the United States legally, and he's serving in the military. And his wife, very nice people. And this guy came out, a relative. I think he was a nephew. And we were talking politics, and the military guy, of course, very conservative, wants Trump in, and, on down the line. But so we were talking about Reagan. We were talking about how things used to be. It's like, reminiscing. And this guy said, tell me what it was like. I have no idea. And I said, well, when were you born? And he said, 1994. And he has absolutely no concept of what it was like to be free, like you and I have. And you remember 1994? It wasn't a perfect world, but we didn't have the TSA. We didn't have the NSA. We didn't have craziness like we have today. It didn't exist. But he doesn't know anything about that. Doesn't know what that was like. Will never experience that in this country. Doesn't know anything that wasn't before, the Patriot Act. And it's sad. And I just sat there and looked at him and wanted to tell him more about what it was like to live in a free America where you didn't have to worry about what you said, or you didn't have people looking over your shoulder or trying to shut down your speech, or having a country without political correctness. He knew none of that. And to me, that was extremely sad. fact. I knew it, but to have that like in your face, know it from a live human being who says, tell me what it was like. Oh, God, broke my heart. Absolutely broke my heart. And thinking of him at his age, what about the people that are younger? What kind of world are they going to grow up in the United States? You think it's bad for him having been born in 94. What's it going to be like for people who were born in 2013, 2011, 2016? What's it going to be like for them? We owe it to Americans of any age, from any era, to have a country that is as free as it can be, to have a country that follows the United States Constitution, that believes in the foundation and the principles of the United States, and a country that says if you come here legally, we welcome you with open arms, as long as you want to come here and be Americans, because this is America. And we need to stop catering to everybody and his brother and sister, right? That say, well, I should have this, I should have that, because. No, this is America. It's not how it works. People here who can work and are able to work need to work in order to earn money, to take care of themselves. We need to start teaching our children again what it's like to earn money, to work for something, and that you don't get things overnight. You have to actually work for them. And we have to stop believing the lie that, if you don't give them everything that they want, then they're going to not like you, or they're somehow going to be damaged little wildflowers. And not even wildflowers. Because that would be, that's politically incorrect, right? That's too aggressive to say wildflowers. And we're going to have to drop the PC. Do I like it if people call me names? No. Do I like it if people call other people derogatory names? No, I don't. But you know what? Let them call me and others names. I would rather have my freedom of speech and allow others to have their freedom of speech, even if it's wrong, meaning that they shouldn't say those things. There are implications for people like that. People can turn around, walk away from them, and refuse to associate with them until they change. And it's up to them then whether or not they want to change their speech. It's not up to me saying you must change your speech. And we need to clear out our colleges of all the liberal riffraff in the college that would block off streets and say, oh no, this is our safe place, and because you're white, you may not pass through here. And when I say riffraff, I'm not just talking about the students, I'm talking about the college professors and the administration that would allow such things to take place. If it's not right for you to do that against, let's say, a non-white minority, it is not right for you to do it against a white group of people. I don't care. People are people are people. And you may not mistreat people. Sorry. We have to stand up and say, this has to stop in America. Political correctness has ruined this country because it has shut down the free speech of everyone who should be given a voice. And I don't care if people like Black Lives Matter have a voice. Go for it. As long as you're being respectful, as long as you're doing things legal, I don't care. And if you don't even want to do it respectfully, then you better do it legally. But you're not going to stop my voice. I'm not going to stand down. I'm not going to shut up. I am not going to allow you to talk to me that way because I would not talk to you that way. And we have to stand up as American citizens and say, no more. We are not going to take that, and we're not going to sit down silently, and we're going to stop apologizing for things that we didn't do. We have to in this country. Again, if you want to change this country, you're going to have to change it from the bottom up because it has been ruined from the top down. for far too long, for 8 years. And we have to make a change in America, and we have to all be willing to help. I thank you so much for being here. We'll be back next week. And also on my Stand for Truth Radio, we're having another great guest this week. I hope you'll be there. We're going to be talking on the subject of immigration. Until then, God bless you. Take care, and I'll talk to you really soon.